2, 3.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only Dog Waters, James Williams. And let me tell you, it's very few times that I truly get excited to talk to someone. As you guys know, I've done damn near 300 interviews all around the world. We've done talked to countless of witnesses, but I very seldomly get excited about talking to people. And this gentleman that I'm about to talk to right now, I'm extremely excited to speak to him because not only of what he represents as far as the field of the paranormal is concerned, but what he's done for us over here at the Dark Waters family, it's immeasurable. And so you guys forgive me for a moment, just sit still and relax while I give my brother and my friend Dave Schrader his flowers, because as I told him in the pre-interview, man, I've seen it over and over again since I've been in this field. People reach down and help and pull somebody up, and then nobody else gives them the acknowledgement for it. So Dave, first of all, how are you this evening? How's life treating you? Doing well?
Yeah, no complaints. Thanks a lot for having me, Dark. It's always a pleasure catching up with you.
Well, let me say this publicly. I want you to know how much I appreciate the time you've taken, especially when I first got it started, to help promote me and to kind of get the footing, the foundation under what has become the Dark Waters channel, the Dark Waters network, which is now a radio station, a series of websites, a YouTube channel, its own private website. None of that would have been possible without your help. And I want you to know that. I want to say it publicly, and I want to honor you and tell you how much I appreciate that help that you gave me, because you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to take time to do it. You were the man amongst men when I first started, and bro, you did it. So I'm just grateful, man. I really want you to know that I'm grateful.
Hey, I appreciate that. You know, I started with my love of radio way back when in the 70s when I was growing up. And one thing that always stood out to me was I reached out to some of the people I really enjoyed, and they always gave me the time, you know, and they would talk to me as a kid about radio and about things. And I always thought, boy, if I ever had the opportunity to help others and give insight or be, you know, just kind of being a hand, and it's been a great ride. You know, I'm 18 years on the air this year, and I look at my life and all the people that I've had a chance to meet and sometimes break on our show and give them a chance to, you know, come out and shine. And you were fantastic. And to come and bring the stories that you had really, you know, I felt was elevating our programming. So it was a reciprocal, sympathetic kind of relationship. And it's always been a pleasure to connect with you when we can. And now that I've got the Paranormal 60 podcast, I need to get you on there. And we have to share your wonderful stories and amazing tales from around the world with our listeners.
No, awesome, man. I really appreciate it. I tell you, I think it's about 7 years I've been doing this here just on YouTube. I've only run across one other person like you, and it's amazing. It's this juxtaposition, because I come from doing radio, but also like doing, you know, politically influenced business deals before I got in the radio. And it's almost as if in this field, there's this lack of understanding of, you know, the hand that you pull up, or the person that you help up the ladder will be the person that'll help you up the ladder later on. It's almost as if people don't get that and don't understand that. It's like that lesson hasn't been learned as a overall group of people. And it was just refreshing to experience that. And I just wanted to tell you that. All right, with that being said,
Thank you.
let's two catch up. So,
All right.
I'm gonna tell you, bro. I'm chilling in the bed, like just scrolling on my phone, and I see that you got this TV show, and I'm like, holy crap, homie got a TV show, like a real live television show. And so, at that point in time, people are promoting it on Facebook, and I'm like, they're having watch parties. I'm like, man, I gotta go check this out. And it was phenomenal, man.
Thank you.
I mean, how amazing was that for you to because I know you were, you were the location director and getting locations for Ghost Adventures. How amazing was it for you to come from kind of behind the camera? I know you spent time before, but to be directly in front of the camera, man, like for long periods of time. How was that?
It was awesome, because the opportunities I was given, I mean, I started my first appearance on TV was doing an episode of Paranormal State back in, I think, 2007, 2008. In their second season, I did an episode called First Contact where I took them out UFO hunting. And, they got away from challenging and chasing demons for a week and got to go to the Assetti Ranch in Trout Lake, Washington. And we went looking for UFOs and a bat squatch. And then, years later, I started appearing on Ghost Adventures. I think I did 7 or 8 episodes with them as a guest investigator. And then I was the lead judge on the miniseries Paranormal Challenge with Zach. And that was in 2011. So when I got this opportunity to return to TV in front of the camera, at first I was reluctant because I didn't want to just be another cookie cutter show. But with the Holzer Files, the first show I got brought back for, I got to walk in the footsteps of legendary paranormal investigator Dr. Hans Holzer. And I got to seek these stories, kind of revisit these amazing stories and tales that he first introduced the world to, and got to go in with our team: Cindy Keza, the medium; Shane Pittman, the tech; Alexandra Holzer, the daughter of Dr. Hans Holzer; and Gabe Roth. And we got a chance to do 2 full seasons for 23 episodes of revisiting these amazing cases. And then that allowed me to then roll over to Ghosts of Devil's Perch, where Cindy Keza and I went to Butte, Montana. We lived there for almost 4 months solid. And we were trying to help the police and the mayor of the town deal with this kind of uptick in paranormal activity that had taken place there. And I was really thrilled to get the opportunity because it wasn't just about going out and listening for knocks and bangs and screams in the night, but we were there to help the spirits on both shows and to try to give voice to many forgotten souls and stories that had gone by the wayside. And this was our opportunity to help those spirits, shine again and be heard.
Did you was it overwhelming for you to have your own show? Like, was it like, oh my god, this is all on me? How did that sit with you emotionally? Because I know I can envision myself. I've had people make offers. I was like, nah, I'll pass. But signing the paperwork and doing something like that, I can see myself laying in the bed saying, holy crap, what am I about to get myself into? Talk to me about that moment when you realize, okay, this is legit about to be, my show.
Well, I knew where they were going, and it wasn't ever going to be my show. I was just going to be a part of this group. And I had a talented tech with Shane Pittman in the first series, Katie Stafford in the second series, and had this wonderful medium, Cindy Keza. And I was really hired to do what I do best, which is interview people and, try to get to the bottom of putting these pieces together. And that's what we did. So the investigation was just the cherry on top for me. So I was surrounded by a great team, and everybody shouldered responsibility on the program. So it never hinged on any one of us. And if one of us came up short on an episode because nothing happened, there were still 2 other teammates that were there to work off of and respond to and help or support through what they were dealing with. So it really was a nice, again, reciprocal type of relationship. And I think that's why people took to the show so much, as they could see the love and camaraderie between the teammates and our compassion for the souls that we were trying to communicate with, both the living and the dead.
Nah, that man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, when you were out doing those kind of walkthroughs of the old investigations, what was one of the things that happened to you that you would say are one of the experiences that you guys had on that show that was earth shaking for you? Something that you'll never forget.
Well, coming right out of the shoots, our very first episode, we went to the Whaley House in San Diego, one of the most haunted houses in the world, reportedly. And the way it got that name was Dr. Hans Holzer. He had gone there and investigated it a few times. And dealt with the spirits there. Regis Philbin brought him there. They had weird experiences. So there was really this interesting genesis point. But when I first went, I was kind of disappointed that that would be our first episode, because I felt like, man, everybody's been to the Whaley House. What more could we bring to this that will make it an interesting story? And we got a chance to go in. This was the first time we worked together as a team. And during the investigation, this malevolent spirit, and I don't call it demonic or anything evil. It was just a very angry spirit who had been forgotten, who had been lied about, who had been kind of vilified for being the leader of people and leader of men that he was. And although his resolve to take back the land, resolve to get rid of the people that had taken it from them, was violent by nature, he did what has happened throughout history when people want to take back what's been taken from them. And unfortunately, he got caught in the crosshairs and was put to death for it. So here we are a couple hundred years later, calling him out by name, a name that had not really been spoken or talked about in all these years. And he was pissed. And Cindy, the medium, had said, Dave, he does not like you. He's going to take out your knees. And this again being the first time I've worked with this medium, I kind of rolling my eyes. I'm like, wow, we're really amping up the drama for TV, aren't we? Oh, the ghost is gonna take out my knees. And then when we were standing there and I started pushing the ghost, I said, you were shot. Did you push Violet Whaley to shoot herself? And we heard what sounds like a shotgun go off in the house. It was deafening. Boom! And we all jumped and we started playing back the recording. And as we're playing back the recording, something hit me with such a force that it lifted me up off the ground into Shane, and then I fell forward and hit the ground. And when you watch the video, you'll see I turn around and look. I thought one of the cameramen had maybe tripped on the carpet and fallen into me. That's how heavy this presence was. And it hit me, knocked me into Shane. And when I realized there was nothing there, that really shook me up, because I've heard experiences of people being touched and scratched and pushed and pulled and bitten. And I've always taken it with kind of a grain of salt. And now I had my own experience and I saw what kind of force the other side had. And that really put me on my heels and gave me a whole new respect for the paranormal.
Nah, man, it's extremely frightening when, and I've experienced it over and over again. It's extremely frightening when you're touched, when you're pressed, when you're poked, when you're prodded, when, even in my case where it's been whispering, where I've been whispered to, bro, that's extremely terrifying, because it's this sense of, hey, man, I'm not in control of this environment, nor am I in
Right.
control of this situation. And everything
Mhm.
about us as human beings, we want to feel like we're in control. And once you come to the realization that, hold on, there's something that I, not only can I not touch it, hit it, punch it, kick it, I can't even spit on it, but it has the ability to bring harm to me. I mean, it's a frightening thing, man. And
Right. Right.
then once that fear gets on you, it's very, very hard to get off. How did you deal with the fear of that? I know you've been out and about for a while, but
Right.
how did you get over that? Because you live on TV, or well, not live. You guys are recording.
Right.
You had to take a break, huh?
Yeah, I did. I shook it off. I went outside, and I guess maybe it's partly my I'm a father and I've got 11 kids between my wife and I. So I've seen a lot of really scary real world situations having kids, right? Where, people are
Yeah.
sick and things happen and there are accidents. And so it kind of prepares you for being out there in the paranormal realm. And it gave me the opportunity to, okay, I can lash out at something like you said that I can't see or witness, and the ghost may be in another room, or like dealing with the children, I can go back in, show a sign of respect, and say, listen, this isn't the way we deal with things. Just talk to me. I'm here. What can I do to help you? And I think that's why we got such great responses and we had a great resolve for that episode. And we were able to help kind of put some of the spirits to rest, was the fact that we didn't bolster and bluster. We didn't threaten. And, we just went in and addressed the spirits with the respect that were due to them. And I understood why he was upset, and I understood what was going on, and I was apologetic for it, and swore that we would do this show and let people know the real story so that when his name would be brought up going forward, now there would be history explaining his position, explaining what happened. And they never had another problem like that again. So that really gave me a good sense of accomplishment, that we found a way to reach the spirits in a way that other shows weren't, and we were dealing with them. And it's truly been an honor. I got 23 episodes of the Holzer Files and had a chance to just kind of go in and do what felt right. And they allowed me to pray in these locations and pray for the spirits, and they didn't make us call out demons that didn't exist. So we really caught lightning in a bottle in a very interesting way, because we were able to do what felt right for us and seemed to work.
No, and that's unique because typically with those TV shows, it's and that's been my problem with them. It's this direction that's set up for the show, and it's hardcore
Mhm.
direction, and I understand why. It's designed because you want to get the views, you want to get people's attention, and it's very seldom do you get a chance to where you can actually operate in truth and work in the way that you want to work.
Well,
Um,
we were lucky with Dr. Holzer's files, Dark. We had all of his original case files, handwritten notes, but then we also had his recordings, and we had the film footage, and we had the photographs. So whether we encountered anything or not, the evidence was already there. It already existed, and it was sometimes more terrifying hearing the channeling voices of ghosts. And if you watch the show at the beginning, you hear Ethel Meyer, this genteel English woman, and this voice is emanating from her, "My body, where's my body?" and calling out. And that was terrifying enough. So they really felt that the crux of the show was in the original evidence files that Dr. Holzer had, and could we corroborate them? And when we did, fantastic. But there wasn't that same pressure to us because we already had a hook that didn't entail needing to craft anything around it. But I will say I've been on Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, shows like that, and I've never seen any shenanigans. I've never seen them craft a story around something. I was there. The evidence we caught is what they showed. When I was on Ghost Adventures and we did the Demon House in Seattle, that was exactly as it appeared. We got no activity, not even a dust orb floating by a camera. And they presented the episode that way, which I thought was bold and fantastic, that they showed, hey, this happens sometimes. And, it's funny because the audience who's out there shaking their fist the most at, "Oh, we want reality," and, "Oh, they're so overacting, and you can't find something everywhere." And they aired an episode where they got nothing, and people bitched and whined and moaned about it.
yeah,
Well, there was nothing there. Why'd you even waste our time? Because we wanted to show you that sometimes the claims and why this person felt this way is just as fascinating as finding this. And could we go in and could we corroborate or disprove, which has always been the crux of these shows? Can we disprove these claims to help these families feel better and more grounded? And the gentleman that whose house it was, he has gone on to try to make a career out of swearing his house was haunted with these demonic forces. But Dark, for God's sakes, there were these things painted on the wall, images, 666, Native American symbols, the upside down man, all of these kind of tropes from horror movies. And then the funny thing is they weren't just painted, they were like sponge painted. So I always thought, well, is this an interior decorating demon that we're dealing with? Because why would he sponge paint 666 on the ceiling? You could tell what type it was. It was just ridiculous. And God love him, let him go out and continue to try to spin his yarn. I don't believe that there was anything demonic there. I think it took a team from Europe coming over there to investigate, to agree with him and try to disclaim everything that we found on Ghost Adventures. But anybody that really went in there and saw the evidence or lack thereof, really kind of, you could see for yourself. Nothing ever happened on camera. He would always have his camera at an angle where something would whiz by from another distance, and instead of spinning the camera towards the area that it just came from, he'd aim it at where the, like where the candle smashed into the wall, instead of turning around to see if there was anybody there that threw the
That
candle.
threw it,
So it was
right?
just, yeah, it was a lot of nonsense. And then when I called him out about it on a radio show once, when he called in and tried, got very defensive, I said, what's interesting is you're playing your video games on this big screen TV and you're loud, and that's what pisses off this ghost. But it throws a glass candle holder at your wall. Why doesn't it throw it at your TV set? Why doesn't it hurt you by taking out the thing that's irritating it most? Why isn't it starting your PlayStation on fire? Right? And lo and behold, within a couple of days, oh my God, now my laptop computer screen, it shattered it. Yeah, but it still didn't destroy your big screen TV that makes all the noise and racket that pisses the ghost off. It didn't do anything else. And how do I know you didn't just drop the computer and put this up? And then, yeah, the experience of, then it came and it nailed a pair of jeans to the wall. Why would a ghost crucify a pair of Levi's?
Right.
Again, it was all nonsensical evidence. It was very weird, and I feel bad. I think the guy definitely wants attention, and it cost him a relationship, and it I think has not boded well for him. And it was never our intention to make him look stupid. We thought he legitimately wanted answers, and what we came in to say was, there's nothing here.
And that's the craziest thing. Like, um, if he's claiming that there's actually ghostly, or it sounds like he was trying to say there was demonic activity, then
Mm-hmm.
there's telltale signs of demonic activity. It's going to start with him. It ain't going to start
Mm-hmm.
with nothing else around that building. It's going to, when you
Right.
see him, touch him, smell him, you're going to know that something's off with him, because there's
Mm-hmm.
direct attachment to him. And then the rest of the stuff is real. It really gets simple. You got a candle
Yeah.
lit, that fire is going to come up off that wick of that candle. There's a real demon there, because they're an inversion. So it's like, it's certain things that anyone who's ever dealt with real spirit warfare, demonology, demons, man, the truth. And when you talk to a person, you can feel it on them, you can sense it on them, as opposed to someone who's just running around doing hoaxes and faking. And I think
Right.
um, there's a fine line. I found that there's a fine line in this field, as far as like, kind of bringing attention to, but it's necessary to bring attention to things that aren't legit, because then people get these concepts and their ideas in their minds of, for example, a ghost or a demon is nailing jeans to the wall. So there's nothing going on in my house because on this TV show it nailed this to the wall. And there's so many other instances where people going through the veil, going to sleep, experiencing things in that veil where they're feeling pressed down, pulled, flipped over, all these different things that people encounter that are more indicative of that behavior and that activity, as opposed to some sponge paintings on the wall. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, man. But
Right. And I also think, we can't always dismiss just because it doesn't fit our paradigm. You can't always dismiss the type of activity that takes place or what people's claims are. Just because it may not make sense to you doesn't mean that it isn't a real phenomena around that person. And that whatever this creature that is appearing to them, it's not customizing itself because I know that this is something that terrifies this person. To Dark Waters, it may be something else. To Dave, it may be a serpent king. It may be the things that haunt us in our deepest, darkest recesses of our mind. So I don't dismiss those stories or what they're experiencing just because it doesn't align with me. But I also understand there are times you've just got to question, where is this coming from? What does this really mean? And what can we do to expose the truth, not hurt people, not defile or villainize them, but really kind of give some insight into what's happening. And that's all you can really set out to do when you work these angles, is just try to help, try to give answers. And there's enough really weird stuff. And sometimes you're right, it's not attached to the home, it's attached to the person. And, he was removed from the home during the main part of the investigation when nothing was happening. And a lot of times the activity only took place when he was home. So we were trying to ascertain, is the house haunted? Is there a demonic force here? And that was not true. Could it be that there is something attached to him? Could it be that it's mental illness? Could it be that it was attached to the woman that he used to date? I don't know. That wasn't what we were there to ascertain. We were there just to tell him if there was something dark and demonic in the house, and we found nothing.
Yeah, that's how it goes, though. And
Mhm.
sometimes it gets controversial. Let's move on to now. I'm not
Sure,
very familiar with the work you did on Devil's Perch because I
sure.
didn't walk me through that one. That one sounds like that might have been terrifying. That's an entire city
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
having paranormal.
Well,
How big is it?
this is the 4th season of the series. The first 2 seasons were Ghosts of Shepherdstown, and that was Nick Roth, formerly of Ghost Adventures, and Elizabeth Saint, and the team that they worked with. Then in season 3, it was Ghosts of Morgan City in Louisiana, and that was Ben Hansen, Sarah Lemos, Katie Stafford, Jeremy Leonard, the what is it, the Cajun demonologist. So they were all there dealing with the town that was haunted. And this whole series is predicated around a town, and that it's not just a location, but it's an entire area. And why? Why is it haunted? What's going on there? And what can we do to bring peace to the humans and the dead alike? And 4th season was Ghosts of Devil's Perch, which took place in Butte, Montana. So it's a big thriving community. It was one of the most populated little big cities in the world at one point. It had the richest copper vein in the world, I believe. It's just really an amazing place, but it was also a location that was built on greed, lust, love, gambling, drinking. There was a lot that went on there. So there was a lot of darkness that took place. Murder, people's souls and dreams being crushed under the heels of the more wealthy. And being in this town, being called out by the historians of the town, being called out by the mayor and the police because they just don't know how to help the people in their community. As you said earlier, you can't go spit in its eye. You can't grab your cuffs and cuff the demon or the ghost and drag him out of the location. And although the mayor and the chief of police were not necessarily, I mean, the mayor was more open to the paranormal than the chief of police. But what he did say, and he was very sincere, is, I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe that the people in my town are dealing with something that I don't know how to deal with, and we need your help. And Cindy Keza, the medium, myself, and Katie Stafford, who is a vet, an army vet, and he is a technology wizard and builds different equipment to try to test different principles of the paranormal to try to make communication devices and boxes. The 3 of us were set into this town to see if we could come up with answers. And that's what we did. Like I said, we lived there for 4 months and really entrenched ourselves in the town. And I think we had 2 weekends off the entire time. One, I was off on the Jericho cruise, and the other one, I went to New Jersey for a conference. Everything else, we were right there in Butte in the thick of it. But I needed a break. Cindy and KD needed a break because it was just, there was no place you couldn't turn where there wasn't a story attached. And one of the episodes, at the place called the Cabbage Patch, which was kind of this place where the disenfranchised, the homeless population lived in these little shanty towns. And they kept a portion of the shanty town intact so that they could show the kids and people that have come through what it was like to live there as the poorest of the poor. And I walked right into a place memory and thought I had a heart attack or that perhaps an appendix ruptured. Something hit me with such force. I literally thought something burst inside me. I went to the hospital and ended up spending the night in the hospital because of it. They could find no earthly explanation for what happened to me. I was sent back home or sent back to my hotel. And then we uncovered the fact that an African American gentleman, Richard Sims, had been gunned down in the spot where I was in a love relationship that went wrong. He was a black man in love with the white preacher's daughter. And when she was tired of him and decided that she didn't want to keep playing around with him anymore, she shot him. And his story was forgotten. He was swept to the side and under the carpet while her family went on to prominence. She wasn't even, I don't even think she was fully tried for it. She certainly wasn't found guilty or convicted because, it's just a black guy back in the day. Who cares? And that
Right.
was heart-wrenching to us that we get this story and it gave us a chance to come out and tell the story again. But I tell you that to tell you this, when I go in the hospital, once they got past, okay, he's no longer in danger, doctors and nurses filtered into my room all night because they heard I was the paranormal guy. And they all had stories. Hey, I grew up over on this street. Are you investigating over there because this happened to me? Or I grew up over there. Or they were telling me ghost stories that were taking place in the hospital currently. And they were, every place I went, when people found out what I do and who I was, they had stories to share, Dark. And it was crazy because there wasn't a part of that town that wasn't kind of drenched in blood at one point. So there are a lot of spirits that were demanding to be heard. I hope we get another season because I think there's more history to unfold there. And I would like to help be the voice of those spirits and get that story out.
Man, that's terrifying because as you started to describe
Yeah.
that city, it sounds like a small version of New Orleans, is what it sounds like.
Right.
And, bro, when I tell you, the things that go on down here, the things that people experience, it's utterly ridiculous. And then as for you guys being completely submerged in that environment, not only did it, and I'm just following my thought process. I'm assuming that not only did it meant that when you went to go get coffee and get breakfast in the morning, you were greeted by people with stories, but then there had to be experiences when you were alone, and you guys were staying alone that just probably happened that probably were never caught on camera, feelings that you guys were getting.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you talk about, people don't understand the spirit realm, and when they talk about the spirit realm, most people don't gather that things that happen in the spirit realm directly affect on a daily basis what happens in the physical realm. So when you go into a territory like that, that's full of spirits, some, whether you call them
Mhm.
demonic spirits, whether lion spirits, it doesn't matter. When you go into a territory like that that's full of spirits, you literally are going into their territory, and now you're pretty much subjected to everything that goes on because it's their will. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's the most frightening thing. I learned that a while ago, and once I got the grasp of it, legally and illegally, going into areas that I can be and cannot be, it's utterly terrifying. But I couldn't see myself going in a situation like that where I know, man, that's bold, bro. And I know you understand what I'm saying. That's bold, man. That's extremely bold. Anything happen off camera that really caught your attention that nobody knows about?
I've been pretty good. I did on my podcast, The Paranormal 60. I went back and I revisited each episode when they would air, and I would do a behind the scenes and talk about some of the stories and cases. And I would tell you things that didn't make it. And I can't really remember much of it right now at this point. But yeah, certainly there were things, and there are parts of the story that don't make it on TV when you're filming 5 days a week for 12 to 14 hours a day, and it gets cut down to 42 minutes. You lose a lot. Sometimes we would get amazing evidence, but it had nothing to do with the story that we were investigating. So
Right.
there was a lot of history in that house. What we caught had nothing to do with the story we were investigating. And we couldn't take time to jump into another parallel universe story. We had to wrap this one up. So some of that stuff didn't make it. And there were a few pieces of evidence we missed that aired on TV that we didn't see, including one scene when this closet door slides open on its own while Cindy's in there doing a communication. And our camera guy happened to be kneeling right in front of the closet. And you catch there's this hand that kind of appears in the darkness and then just kind of folds in and disappears. It's creepy as hell. And people saw it. We saw it. It was great. So there was a lot of interesting things. But like I said, a lot of the stories were just the behind the scenes stories of waking up to seeing minors standing in your bedroom, waking up to see women in old outfits walking through your living room. And, there was just, it was so many places, so many different aspects of it. Being in the Dumas brothel, one of the most famous haunted spots in Butte. It's been on so many shows. We caught a lot of crazy stuff. And then while we were setting up, getting ready to film, we had lights blowing out. We had cameras that would not work. We had to take them out of the building thinking, oh my God, something's happened. They've crapped out. And as soon as we get them out, the cameras would come back on. It's crazy.
No, that's about par for the course. For any time you're dealing with spirits and really dealing with the paranormal, it gets real hairy real quick. That's
Right.
you know what I started doing probably in the past 12 months was initially when people would call me with problems and issues, I would kind of give them some advice, do this, do this. I tell you something, Dave, when you start praying for people who have spirits associated with them and
Hmm.
interceding for them, man, you
Right.
start to see some of the wildest things. Just recently, this lady called, she was sending these pictures, bro. I mean, pictures of shadow men with horns, like straight up looked like a man with big old horns that curled down. She sent us a photo of a Native American standing on her ceiling, you clear as day, fully manifested, with a glowing diamond in the middle of his head. And she says, "I want help and I need help." So man, we start trying to help this woman and praying. And I go to bed and wake up out like about normal time to take a leak. Look in the mirror, and there is this thing looking at me through the mirror. I said, "Oh, buddy,
Mm-mm.
who are you?" I'm like, "Who are you, buddy? You gonna have to get up out
Right.
of here. Bye. You gonna
Yeah.
have to go." And I rebuke it and get rid of it. But it's amazing that legalistically, just and I learned this early. When you start butting into the business of in the spirit realm, which is other people's business, in this case of an entire city, it's almost as if um, it's almost like a military parade can happen where it's just this parade of events to make a presence known that, okay, yeah, I'm real and this is what's going on, and let me show you who and what I am. And it's amazing, but it's terrifying all at the same time. It really, really, really is.
Yeah.
um, and then when you start talking about like that physical effect of literally feeling like you were being shot, because that's what you described. um,
Hmm.
Most people, they'll probably gawk at that and say, "Well, no, I don't know about that." Well, no, that's what happens. Like you literally physically feel what happened to that other person, and it's
Yeah.
that gets to the point to where we go from just the scale of being a little bit afraid. Now we go back into that territory of losing control, and it puts fear on you. And how do you deal with a situation like that? You're in the hospital. You're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. You felt this pain. How do you deal with it when that fear hits you in a situation like that?
Well, I was nowhere in the concept of supernatural. I just assumed I was a dead man. I was having a heart attack or something had ruptured and I was spilling toxins into my blood. So I immediately went to the darkest side of it all, and oh my God, I'm dying. This is it. Once I got through that, I was like, oh, good. Okay, no, I walked into a place memory. It was actually a relief because it meant there was nothing physically wrong with me. And they laughed. They're like, well, we cannot find anything wrong with you. And at your age and weight, we kind of expected there was going to be some problems, but every one of your tests came back perfectly normal. One thing is elevated, and is that because you take a lot of ibuprofen? I said, yeah. They said, yeah, your liver function is a little wonky, but you just back off on the ibuprofen and you should do well. That was it. All of that, and that was it. It was just that I was fine. I was in good health. I was absolutely okay. So the fact that it was paranormal was a relief to me, and so it didn't put me in the same scare factor.
Right.
But then it went straight into, oh my God, what happened? And I had a few days off from that, and they actually dug into it, and that's when they found this poor guy who had been murdered, Richard Sims, and then found the story behind it. And here, there's one thing that didn't make it. While we were there at the Cabbage Patch, our director was walking along, just eyeballing the location for something, and he saw something glinting down in the grass, and he reached down and pulled out. He dug up this little necklace with a heart shape pendant that was engraved, and it said Richard on the back, and it had an engraved image of this African American man. And obviously, it's a contemporary new necklace because of the work that was done on it. but he's like, "Oh, this is weird." And he put it in his pocket thinking, "Oh, I'll give it to Fisk, our historian. Maybe he knows who this guy is because Fisk knew everybody in town." And the audio recordings that Cindy and Katie had gotten were saying this, identifying a spirit as Richard. And when they all got together, they didn't show on scene because understandably they thought, oh, nobody's going to believe the director just happened to find a necklace with
Right.
a black man's picture on it and his name is Richard on the back, even though it's definitely not the same guy. But it was an interesting element to the story and a weird synchronicity. And it was a shame we couldn't use it because we felt a very big tie to it. Like Richard was definitely finding a way to let us know who he was and what his story was. So it was, I've had people say, "Well, Dave, okay, so you've been knocked down a couple of times, you've been bitten, you thought you got shot or stabbed. Why do the ghosts pick on you?" And like before the show today, we were talking. He said, "You just got to take everything day by day. You just got to try to make the absolute best of the day that you have before you." And that's the way I like to look at those moments. People want to look at it as though I was attacked. I like to look at it as though the ghost found the right person to make an impression on. And I was able to turn around and help instead of running out scared, screaming, unaffected, or not unaffected, but not affected in that way. And, maybe had it happened to Cindy, being an empath and a psychic medium, she may have not wanted to go back in and it would have been too personal. And had it happened to KD, who is a vet from the Iraqi and Afghani wars, he might not have let it affect him the same, or he might have just shelved it and not talked about it. The spirits found the right person to communicate with to get the attention of everybody. And I felt that it was a gift bestowed unto me from these spirits to kind of, here's somebody we can connect to.
No, that's a
And then
cool
they
way of
did.
looking at it. That really is a
Yeah.
cool way. I don't think I can look at it like that. You are OG for that. I'd be like, yo, stop touching me, don't press me, don't touch me, get away from me. But I mean, that's definitely a good way to look at it, and that's a way to keep yourself open so you can encounter it again and have an appreciation for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
takes that to do what you do. You know, it really does take that to do what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pause right here because I don't believe in promoting at the end of interviews because people, you guys listen and you be like, oh, I forgot. Look, Paranormal 60 on YouTube is where you can find Dave Schrader. He's already told you about the TV shows. He's already told you about the things he has going on. Head on over right now and subscribe to Paranormal 60. I want it'll be a couple of thousand. You guys listen to this. He should get a bump of 400 or 500 people once this is released. So I want you to head on over and subscribe because if it wasn't for Dave, you wouldn't have Dark Waters here doing what he's doing. So we're gonna show the love, honor, and respect that's deserved by doing what needs to be done. You heard me? All right, back to it, Dave. So what's next for you, buddy? What
Well, hey,
is
let me say one thing about the work that you do. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, and I appreciate that you're giving the flowers to me as a thanks, but you are a standout individual, James. You are a guy that is going to make things happen. And because you have that intention and manifestation aspect of who you are, that's what put us in direct contact with one another. And I believe that I'm glad that I was there to be an open door and a way to get you heard by our audience on my last show. But you would have gotten there eventually on your own because that's who you are and because the content you deliver is great and people love it and will find it entertaining. So as much as I would love to take some of the credit, I just think I was in the right place at the right time to help a good guy who would have been found eventually. But I'm just glad that I was able to get you out there a little bit quicker to everybody else. But stand by what you do, man. You create amazing content and people love you.
No, I appreciate it. I'm 100% on board with you. I'm 100% on board with that. But I'm a man that understands. I really do understand the dynamic of how things work. And
Right.
you're right. You have all the talent and ability in the world, but if that other person is not willing to take a shot, to take a chance, then nothing
Hmm.
happens. And that's what I'm saying. And
Exactly.
I really appreciate that. All right. So with that being said, what is next for you? I know we got Paranormal
Sure.
60. What
Right.
what's coming down the pipeline for you that not only you want to promote and talk about, but that my audience can help you accomplish and achieve?
The big thing, I just hope people will check in and hear the episodes I do. On Mondays we do interviews, Fridays we tap into the news and we talk about the supernatural news. I've got a fun group of guys, the my Texas contingent of Paranormal 60 News crew. So we have a lot of laughs and fun on Friday nights with our listeners and followers. You can find the audio version of the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Just look up Paranormal 60, 60, Paranormal 60. But I also travel all over the world and I get a chance to see a lot of great places, do a lot of cool events. I think the photograph I'm looking at you was taken at, wasn't that taken at Wizard World in New Orleans when we
Yep.
were there together?
Yep.
Yep.
WizardCon in New Orleans sure was.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of cool events this year. People can go to darknessevents.com, darknessevents.com, and they could see where I'm going to be. So you could come out and meet with me, hang out, maybe even get to ghost hunt. I'm going to be at Joliet State Prison on May 5th and 6th with Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files. And we're going to be investigating for the weekend what is, in my opinion, one of the truly most haunted locations in the world. I've been there 3 times. I've never been let down by the crazy kind of activity, from full-on visual apparitions to direct voice phenomena, meaning you can hear it out loud, to footsteps overhead or coming up to you on the concrete floors. You could stand there silently and listen to things walk up to you, and amazing electronic voice phenomena, EVP. So we're doing that. We still have some tickets available if people are interested and want to come on out and get off the couch and get into the game. I always tell them you could come on out and get tickets. There's VIP tickets, which gets you into both nights of ghost hunting, plus the 2 daytime walkthroughs, and you get to come to our presentations and talks. A lot of fun. And we also have 1-day tickets available. So if you only want to come out for Friday or you only want to come out for Saturday, you can do that as well. I just added a trip to England. I'm going to be going out to the Festival of the Unknown, a paranormal conference in England, and we built a little tour around it. So it'll be a couple-day tour before the conference. Then the conference is 3 days. Then 2-3 days after of more touring London, England, and different haunted and notorious sites. So it's going to be fantastic. Just a great way to kind of get out there and see the world, see these places that you watch on TV or hear about on podcasts. And I hope people will consider doing that. But there's a ton of different type of activities, locations, and places to meet me throughout the year at all across the United States and around the world. So I hope your listeners will come on out and meet me. And if you do, tell me you heard me here on Dark Water Show, and let me know where you heard about me. That's just always the nicest way, because it's nice recognition to go, great, I'm glad you heard me there, and I'm glad Dark is getting those listeners.
No, that's awesome sauce. I tell you, going back to that WizardCon, man, the when we went to that event, I did not anticipate us having a room full of people. I was like, okay, we're gonna go in here, we're just gonna chop it up and we're gonna talk.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, is that Shorty from the news? I think I know her. That's a reporter. And then I'm like, okay, the room is filling up. And then I had people walk up to me. It's like, oh, I love you and this and this. I'm like, whoa, buddy, hold on, Kimosabe. I'm a regular dude. And that's when it hit me, the effect that we have on people
Hmm.
as we talk about these topics. It hadn't really settled in at that point in time until then. I was like, this is wow. That was one
Well,
wild experience, man.
what was great is Wizard World was this kind of Comic-Con, super con nerd fest, right? And I loved going to those when I was a kid, and that, I convinced a couple of them, hey, you're in Minnesota, let me come and do a talk on the paranormal. And they're like, I don't know, man, this is sci-fi and superheroes and comic books. I'm like, well, if nobody comes, nobody comes, but let's do this. And I started filling rooms really well. And then my favorite one was I did GalaxyCon, their first conference in Minnesota. And they're like, sure, we'll try it. And my talk was, the doors closed at the conference at like 6, and my talk was at 8 o'clock that night. And I'm like, who the hell's going to stick around at 8 o'clock, 2 hours after the doors close, for the main convention and vendor rooms? Who's going to hang around? And so I snuck in about 45 minutes early, and there was somebody up there talking before me, and they had about 20 people in the room. And I'm like, oh, 20 people, it's not great, but it's not horrible. And then the person got done talking, and half the group stood up and walked out of the room. And I'm like, geez, 10 people. oh, that sucks. And I looked at my watch and I got up in front of the room and I'm like, hey, I'm Dave Schrader. I'm going to be talking about the paranormal. I've got ghost stories, and about 2 or 3 other people got up and walked out of the room. Now I'm looking at 7 people. And as they walked out, they shut the door behind them. And I'm like, well, and I'm thinking to myself, you just do this. You treat these 7 people like you would if there were 7,000 here. And you give them a great show. And I started knocking it out. Now it's 15 minutes in. All of a sudden, I see this guy duck in and he's wearing the GalaxyCon shirt. He's one of the runners, and he sits down and he's kind of giving me the stink eye. And I'm like, what's going on? And I keep talking. And finally, he gets up and he moves closer to me and he starts tapping his wrist. And I go, I'm sorry, everybody, hold on. And I go, what can I help you with? And he goes, you need to get out of here. The next speaker is supposed to start. And I go, no, I'm supposed to be here for an hour. And he goes, no, our next speaker is supposed to start. I go, who's your next speaker? And he goes, Dave Schrader. And I go, I am Dave Schrader. And he goes, oh God, hold on. And he gets up and walks to the back of the room and opens the door. And there is a line 250 people deep waiting to come into the room. He let them all in. We're wall to wall. People are sitting in the aisles, standing in the back of the room, standing around the sides of the room. And I go, I got to get a picture of this. Do you guys mind? And because I was blown away, I took the picture. He went out and got other big shots that were part of the conference to come see my room. And afterwards, they came over and they said, you had more people in your room than a lot of the celebrities, like major movie and TV stars, had attend their talks. When do you want to be back? And I just got signed for all 4 of the Galaxy Cons this year. And they're looking to bring me onto a couple of their pop-up horror conventions as well. So I'm going to be out there doing it. And it's because there is such a great fan base, not just of mine, but a fan base of the paranormal. People love the unknown. They love to talk about the strange. And listen, it's the one great evener, right? Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what sexuality you are, doesn't matter what religion you ascribe to, it doesn't matter what walk in life you are, if you are a homemaker or a vice president of a company. We all have to face death at some point. We're all fascinated by mysteries. We all grew up watching In Search of and Sightings and Unsolved Mysteries and the X-Files and programs that got our juices going. So people come out, and it's great to see that I can look in a room that's got every ethnicity, every age group, every financial stability group in there. And I look and this is where we're all even. This is where we can all come together. And I love that aspect of doing what we do in the paranormal.
Nah, it's phenomenal, man. And truthfully, it's mind blowing. It really, really is mind blowing. The fascination that people have and the interest. And then you know what else? The knowledge base that people have. You'll be, and I'm pretty sure you've experienced this. I've spoken to people and they literally blow my mind with the things that they have a grasp and a knowledge and an understanding of. And if you just saw them in Starbucks getting coffee, you'd be like, "Oh, this guy don't know anything." And then they open their mouth, and it's like, "Whoa, buddy, how you know all this stuff?" And it's just absolutely amazing, man. It's the greatest gift of being in this field. All right, Dave, we're running up out of time. Let's hit them one more time. Where are we going? We're going to Paranormal 60. What's the name of the website for the events?
Darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. And if they just go to paranormal60.com, it has where you can find all of my social media. It has my shop. It has my events page. It has everything you could want. Just go to paranormal60.com and keep tuning in because very soon I have it on good authority. I'm going to be joined by Dark Waters himself on the program, and we're going to be sharing some of his favorite creepy stories over the years.
Bro, you know I'm going to go clean off if we're going to do it again. It's going to be ridiculous.
Let's do it.
I'm going off.
Let's
all
get
right,
it
brother.
done.
Well, I appreciate you joining me, man, and thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for taking some time to hang out with us over here in the Dark Waters. And I'll be talking to you soon, brother. We'll be chopping it up soon.
And may you have the most blessed and amazing 2023, and may this begin the best years of your life, Dark Waters.
Thank you, my friend.